Welcome to the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia. The lovely Terry, she has just graced us with her presence today. Very, very glad to see you. Ready for the Genius Zone? How are you, Terry?
I'm actually going quite well, and I'm glad to see that, you're as bright as I am today, because
we'll try and colour code.
I kind of thought, maybe people might need their sunglasses.
Oh, dear. Back in my racing days, I actually used to get that all the time. My car was very bright,
Okay.
Very unusual, lots of fluorescent colours and very conservative, actually. I fitted into the background. It was fluorescent chartreuse, which is green, yellow, right?
Yep, my gosh.
Very, very dark blue and fluorescent pink. So
that's amazing.
With fluorescent pink
that.
Wheels, so very subtle. Yeah, it'd be hard to pick it.
You didn't want to stand out at all,
no,
did you?
Not
even one bit.
I've always liked to hide in the background. I'm that kind of guy, right? But yes, everyone used to make the joke, I need sunglasses to walk near your car.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point. All right, I'm ready to jump in and looking forward to today's show. So,
me too.
You've always you're stepping things up, Terry. You really have. You've, again, week after week, you're bringing the questions, you're putting them on the screen for me as well. I'll tell you what, you're making life much, much cooler. You're full of energy on this one.
Well, I really want to look at how to simplify life. And if there is a really cool word around anything we do with success, working, smart, and all the things, it's simplicity.
Simplicity?
Keep it simple, Sam. Well,
Sam?
It's actually keep it simple. What is it? Stupid?
Yeah. I thought, how nice of you to clean that up. It's not swearing, but, Sam is much nicer than calling
I thought
stupid.
that too, yes.
I like
and
that.
we were just having a bit of a conversation, if I may bring this to the viewers' attention, because I think this is relevant in some ways, although it might contradict a little what we were discussing. But we were talking about how you've got to be really careful out there at the moment, when you're getting work done for you, you're getting people to come in and help you out, and the way that people are charging and how honest or not honest they are. And you were talking about how somebody was going to charge $1,800
to fit I think it was a $65 part for a plumbing job, right? And long story short, they got the quote down to $1,200. Still had to pay $1,200 to fix a $65 part, and they did it in under an hour.
Wow.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yes, yes.
A little segue here. So interesting you bring this up. I had a great conversation yesterday with a group called Awake Tradies.
Okay.
Oh, they sound like
we need to bring them on board, I think.
Reckon so. We had a great conversation. I need to get some electrical stuff done. And you know what? There was none of that gameplay. It was honest and concise, and what do you need, and there was like respect given. It wasn't that kind of like, hey, I know my trade, you don't know what you're talking about. It was great. So
it always comes back. Whatever you do. And I feel that people that are really integral will do the right thing, and you can pick them. And when they come along, you've just got to hold on to them for dear life. But here's the thing: the $1,800 for a bolt. Okay. Totally ridiculous.
It is.
But, Anthony Robbins, this is in terms of you don't know what you don't know. And if you know something like, if you've got a genius that, other people don't know, it may not necessarily be time consuming or difficult, but it could change the whole, the whole level of whatever's happening. Now, in this particular story, Anthony Robbins is making a point about, knowing exactly what to do when it comes to mastering your life, mastering your business. He's all over it. And he gave a little metaphor about how a stadium was ready to go to a concert, probably a $20,000 to $40,000 concert.
Right.
And, lights, music, power. But guess what? When they went to check everything out, nothing.
Well,
absolutely nothing. So you can imagine, if we get nervous behind the scenes on technology, can you imagine what these guys must do? They called out an electrician, and he got it going in less than a minute, and then handed them an invoice for $10,000.
Whoa.
And the guy goes, hang on a minute. $10,000. You took 1 minute for doing that. He said, $1 for me coming in and taking that minute.
Yep.
$9,000 for me to know which button to click.
So much truth in that. Like, okay, I really believe in this. Never apologize for making a living. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, it all comes down to your ethics.
Yes.
Okay. And doing the right thing. But yeah, do not devalue yourself. The fact of the matter is your knowledge has got power. And for people who don't have that, okay, this saves them so much time.
Yeah.
Like I often say about being, and I stole this from someone else. I didn't come up with this myself, but be the dumbest guy in the room, right?
Yeah.
Okay, be there. Take in the information, the energy from people. It is so valuable. It will save you so much time.
Yeah.
And
that's why I would say to you, you're like Napoleon Hill.
There you go. Well, it's hanging around with you so long. This is what's doing it. Now, speaking of people hanging around, the lovely Cara is watching. I've left her up on the screen there for a while there because she's all the way in Southeast Asia. Lucky you, Cara. I'm very jealous indeed.
Yes.
That'd be nice.
Hello there.
I would definitely go to that right
so,
now.
I believe that people are paying people for their knowledge.
Yep.
And, when a person is put into that position, they shouldn't take advantage of it.
100%.
They really need to illustrate that knowledge is going to have a lot of integrity around it. It's going to be honest. It's going to be the best bet because you know what? Those people are going to refer you onto everyone.
Yes, they are.
But, there's so many people taking advantage of everything at the moment and a lot of people out there with a chip on their shoulder.
Sure.
And I think the chip on the shoulder is a bit of a theme as we're talking through mastering your mindset and doing this through rewiring the past and recreating the future.
Terry, we've never talked about that. I really like that a lot. That really resonates with me because the chip on the shoulder theory, a lot of people do, like in their everyday life or their business or whatever, they will carry that. Whereas if they rewired it, okay, and you leave that chip behind or fill it with a bit of spac filler, whatever you need to do, right?
That's a good one.
Yeah, you can move forward. You can live in your integrity. You'll actually have a happier, more successful life.
Absolutely.
So you've got your success in the financial sense or career-wise or whatever, however you want to measure your success.
Yes.
But also, you've got yourself on integrity based life, and a soulful kind of thing as well.
Absolutely.
So fill up that chip.
I reckon that's absolutely true. So I'm ready, roaring to go
that's fantastic.
Filling up the SPAC, filling up the chip on the shoulder that's missing.
That's right.
And seeing how we can rewire people's lives.
Very interesting. And on that front, if I could throw something strange forward, I'm the guy who buys this spac filler that dries very quickly because I'm impatient and I want it done yesterday, right?
Me too. Yep.
Sometimes you might have to buy the normal stuff. Maybe sometimes in life with rewiring your life.
Yes.
Maybe don't be in a massive hurry. Maybe realize it's a body of work. Maybe it needs a little bit longer.
It definitely is. And I think the catch to it is that, when people hear about the power of neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis and the subconscious mind, they go, how could that be true? Is that a bit far-fetched? I mean, it's normal to actually go down that train of thought, of course, because if something is too good to be true, usually it is. Yeah. And yet, if I was to pull out the catch in it, the catch is this. With the changes that you can make through rewiring your brain, you've got to be really specific. Okay. So you cannot be generalized because what happens is you will literally deal with that one thing. Okay. So if someone comes in and says they've got a chip on their shoulder, we've got to go back and trace that right back to where did that chip on the shoulder begin? Sure. Did a father put that child down? Yep. Were they made to feel inadequate? Usually it comes around an inferior, superior, complex. Sure. And actually it's interesting because inferiority and superiority, how they call it a complex, they're actually the same inside out. They are.
It's a great point. It's a great point. Yeah. And a lot of people do go through life with a bit of a superiority complex. And it's actually very much a false level they've placed on themselves to actually cover up some inadequacy. Yeah. So it's that mirror sort of image, if you like.
Compensation. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. 100%. So, I believe that some of the questions that we've got here is going to kind of like help move into the topic that we are going to be unpacking.
Well, before I click the button and
Yep.
put it up on the screen, what subject are we hitting today?
So it is mastering your mindset
Yep.
through going back and how that, the past can impact. In fact, it does. It doesn't can. It does impact your future. And you hear me banging on about this all the time, right?
Banging on.
And,
banging on.
and then, of course,
stop.
I don't feel like we can talk about it enough because,
I'm teasing you.
But
it's
truly,
so important.
it really is.
100% I'm with
but,
you on this. Yeah.
we're not doing an NLP training workshop certification here. So if people listen into this enough and we keep banging on about it enough, things are going to land.
Absolutely. And if everyone's like me, I've got to hear it a few times, okay?
Yeah.
It's got to sink in.
But it's true.
Yeah.
It's like advertising and those subliminal messages we were talking about as well.
That is true. That's true. We have some interesting conversations before we go on air. It's good fun.
Yes. And a lot of things people may not listen the first time and may not hear it. They may need to hear it 15 times.
100%. And also they have to be ready to hear it.
Yes.
Right? If you're not in that place, like, you might go, I need self-improvement. I want to do this. I want to do that. If you're just not there, then they're empty words. And I don't mean that like I'm having a go at anyone, because I'm sort of talking about myself here too.
We all do it, yeah.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump into these questions then. I'll pop the first one up on the screen.
Like by the way, guys, if we didn't go through this stuff that we're talking about, we'd be hypocrites to begin with. So 9 times out of 10, when you do hear us talking about something and there seems to be a lot of authority around it, it's most more than likely because we've been there.
Oh, it's experience 101. I mean, with me, my name should be Aaron Cleanup Aisle for Malloy. I mean, I've had to do like so much work for the mistakes I've made, right? And the growing that I've had to do. And I say that like I've actually gotten somewhere. No, this is a forever work in progress, right? It doesn't stop.
It's your story.
Yeah.
It's part of your glory.
And none of us are the same person we were when we were 20.
No, that's
Simple
right.
as that. So we change. Well, we're going to have a question here. First one is from David. He's in Canada. Great to see you. Thanks for the message, mate. Long way away. Love Canada. Great people. Feisty, and they like parking a truck occasionally. Good people indeed. All right. I find myself sabotaging my own success by putting off the important things I know I need to do. How can NLP break this crippling issue over my life?
Oh, well, my niece is actually over there in Canada right now, soaking up the snowflakes. I believe what we're hearing a bit of a whisper about here is that very common friend called Mr. or Mrs. Procrastinator.
Oh, I know her well.
Do you know Mr. or Mrs. Procrastinator?
Yep.
Like, guys, if you've ever procrastinated before, or you can even really nail down where you are procrastinating, put the word procrastinate in the comments if you happen to be on one of the social platforms. If you're on radio, why not send us a message in, and maybe we can give you some great rewards for just for intervening, because we love the comments that are coming in. So who has procrastinated? I know that I put things off, serial procrastinator. But the question is, why? Why are we putting them off? What is really going on behind the scenes? And what you'll find is that there's a fear.
Okay.
There is a fear around, and it's quite incredible how many people fear success.
It blows my mind. It was something I never really understood the concept of until I was in an environment at another radio station actually in the past. And where I just like, why are you so happy with mediocrity? We've got this thing and we can be amazing. We can be awesome. Why are we not doing that?
It's called popularity. I've read another question here and it sort of ties in with that.
Okay.
But how we've talked about the underdog?
Yep.
And Aussies, we're the great one for the underdog, and the tall poppy syndrome. It's even in the part of Napoleon Hill's 10 fears that I can't remember how many fears, but there's X amount of fears that he talks about. And one of them is the fear of success. And the fear of success, you know, may have a subconscious little bird saying that if you're successful, you may not be liked. If you're successful, people might want to pull you down.
Yeah, and it's the world's greatest way of the rubbish taking itself out. If people want to actually tear you down, then they don't belong in your life, okay?
Yeah,
They
true.
just don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So true. And, you know, this is the whole thing, but it's about finding that happy medium of not kind of blowing your own trumpet about success. In fact, they have got stats on the fact that the more successful a person is, or if there's a greatness, the less you'll probably hear them going on about it.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like more tucked away. It's innate. It's like me saying, I've got a nose. Okay, so I've got a nose. Like, I don't have to tell you that. And if you said to me...
This is not a great surprise to me. I've seen it before, but okay.
But if you said to me, you don't have a nose, Terry, I'm not going to get offended about that. You know,
some would.
And the reason being is because, hello, it's happening. And that's the same with people who have already got money, for example. I was talking to someone the other day and she was talking about, and I happen to know she's very affluent and come into a lot of money and lots and lots and lots and lots of it. And then she visited with an old friend who hadn't seen her for years. And this old friend was banging on about how successful she was and kind of almost insinuating that this person on the other side was, you know, back where she was maybe 20 years ago.
Okay.
But eventually she discovered this person lives in a very, very sophisticated property overlooking the water, but she didn't have to tell her.
No.
She didn't have to say, hey, I'm wealthy, I'm successful, I'm rich, my husband has invented this incredible, you know, thing, because it's theirs. Nobody can take that away. Yeah.
Little question on that. Did they have wealth before, this particular person with the invention?
No, because that's the other interesting thing when, and I'm not a wealth coach, I'll just say that, but, you know, when you're looking at it from the subconscious point of view, they say that quite often these people that do come into money are quite often first generation.
Yeah.
And that, you know, there is, coming back to the genius zone, they may have been very, very deprived, like Anthony Robbins and a lot of people, Andrew Carnegie. And he made that absolute, when you can make a stand in your mind about something, when you can say with all your might and every cell of your body, I'm not going to take this any longer. I draw the line in the sand. This is where it ends. I am stepping over to the other side and I am going to create what has been deprived from me all of my life. You know, that's where genius people are made. That's where people's zones of genius are created.
A lot of detail there. That's fantastic. Look, I have a couple of little thoughts on that. I think that, you know what, money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy class. And a lot of people, you know, they really miss out on that front. So people like your friend, or the person you're talking about, that
they might be dressing humbly.
Dressing for the occasion. Never apologise for making a living. Never apologise for your success. But having said that, you need a level of being humble. Okay, and also, like, this is a big thing, and I sort of aim this at David a little bit because, you know, he's talking about, you know, his basic success. Success isn't always dollars and cents, okay? It's really that simple. I know that that's the way in the world that we measure these things. That's the thing that we use.
Yeah.
But success is different things to different people. And yes,
true,
cash is a good old barometer of that. It's showing you you're doing well.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe
it's not the only thing though.
It's really not.
Definitely not.
It's really not.
I agree.
Just buy some tinsel, right? Buy some shiny things for your life.
Yes.
But ultimately, you know, the quality of a human being that you are and the way that you relate to people and other people and what you do for other people that's a level of success. So I would sort of ask David to I don't know, I mean, my point is he's got to.
What is success? That just bounced
he's saying he's
up.
sabotaging his success.
Yeah. So, David, my question to you is, what does success mean to you? So if you were to describe success, and I know somebody came and asked me about it one day when I was doing a training in NLP, and they said, well, what do you think success is, Terry? And I went, well, this is not a scientific fact. It's just my opinion, but it is where a person is thriving, doing what they love and loving what they do.
Yep. 100%.
And, you know, that's got to say more for, you know, you could be making trillions of dollars, but if you're miserable, you know, that is not successful.
Yeah, it's just not.
So, you know, there is nothing wrong with being successful, David. And, you know, if you feel that you're putting them off, you've got to ask yourself, what would be the worst thing that would happen if I didn't?
Is there a specific NLP strategy you can put in place to just deal with that very specific thing?
There certainly is. It's probably the most common. And it's called a parts integration. And most coaches hate teaching it. It's just one of those things because there's a lot of details. And what you're doing in short is you are itemizing the elements of, you know, what's going on. So on one hand, David, you want to be successful. Well, what is success? What does it look like? What is good about the success? You know, really ask yourself a lot of these questions. And I think I've even mentioned in another one of our series, write it down. And then on the other side, what's the cost of not doing what you know you need to do? So, you know, what is it? What could be the reason that you're sabotaging? What could be the higher purpose that you're sabotaging? What is it got? What's the cost? What will be the cost? Now, when you make a list and you've got, you know, a fairly balanced list of success versus procrastination, then it's all about then doing what we call a bit of a swish pattern. And that's quite a known and, you know, very renowned modality in the NLP world.
Yeah, it's something you've talked about before.
But it's truly corny. Like, don't do it in the street. But it works. And you can do it in your mind, like just by you writing down those things, David. And then I would say also, where does the belief come from? Like, if you can get underneath the belief, the story about, you know, what it's going to mean if you don't procrastinate, because there's something scary, and it's either like two things, and these are the opposite, but they're the same. Probably chances are the fear of failure or the fear of success.
Right. Well, as far as I'm concerned, David, lose every ounce of being concerned, a fear of success. Go for it, mate. Like, honestly, like,
life's too short.
Foot to the floor, right? Like,
foot to the floor. And you know, another thing is, you know, I often will fast-paced people into their very oldest life, like say at the age of 95, or if you're one of these lucky ones that live to 103, I don't know, whatever that happens to be. And, you know, what would that really old version be saying? Would they be going, good on you, David. I'm so glad you procrastinated. I'm so glad that you just sat back on the lounge and, you know, allowed your subconscious to take over and make up excuses. I like
that. I like that. The old person, you know, the old you, isn't going to go back and go, you know, I'm so glad you sat on your hands. I would rather, I'm a big believer in this. I would rather try and know I've tried and fail or fall short or whatever you want to call it, right, but not hit my mark, not get my target. I would rather know that I gave it my best shot and not get there. You know, we get one crack at this life that we know of anyway. Why not have a go?
Exactly.
You know, I say this on so many things, and I really mean it. It's so many things in life. I mean, we've got a speed dating event coming up here at Edge very, very soon, all that. And so I'm talking to people about that, and people are going, oh, you know, I feel uncomfortable talking to, you know, a girl and da-da-da-da-da.
Because these days it's weird.
Well, it is weird. Yeah, but okay.
People don't meet people anymore.
That's right. Human beings. Oh, how scary.
So that's got to be a good event. I would suggest anyone who's single to get get onto that
It's going
event.
to be fantastic. Tell you what. And there's so many beautiful girls who have actually
Yeah.
lined up for this, already signed up,
Wow.
and they're so fellas, just get on
Smorgasbord.
board. Hello, I'm going. And make no mistake about that. But what I'm going on this is
Yeah.
the fact that, and again, with David, just okay. Go. Have a go. Whether it's a pretty girl in a room that you want to say hi to, you know what? You're not going to drop dead if she says no.
True that.
Go. Try. Give it an effort. Whether your business, whatever you're trying to achieve, just give it a go. As long as you don't half-ass it, put the effort in. As long as you make the effort, you know you're going to
go
achieve
all
something.
in.
Yeah.
Go all in,
Yep.
because, you know, on your tombstone, it's probably better that was the case. But there was one more question I would ask David,
Okay.
and that is, it's an NLP question, and that is, are you toward motivated or are you away motivated?
All right. Now, can you tell me what that is?
Okay, so just in layman's terms, if a child is sitting there and they are away motivated, they will respond better and take action when mum says, if you don't eat your veggies, you're not going to have any dessert.
Okay.
I'm not going to sing a Pink Floyd song, but it sounds a bit like that, doesn't it?
Very
but
similar.
Anyway, the toward motivated child would hear this and respond. When you eat all your veggies, you're going to get your dessert.
Yep.
See what just happened?
Yep.
The toward motivated child. So if you think about which way do you, I am away motivated, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, really.
That does surprise me.
No, really big, bad, huge.
So you're worried
time.
about consequences?
If, like, you know, when we had the pandemic, I just came out. Like, I just thought, pulled out all stops and just became unashamedly showing up.
Right.
Because I felt that pain in the world, and I felt more confident about taking action when the chips were down than when everything's rainbows and butterflies.
Yep.
So I'm away motivated. What are you, David?
I'm so surprised. And Dave, that's probably a great question to ask yourself, mate. Let's jump to the next question. And I might add, let's also, if you've got comments that are coming through, we'd love to sort of mention those, sort of questions or comments or whatever. Always fantastic to have interaction. And those that don't come up on the screen because they come through so many different feeds and we can only see like some of the feeds. For those ones, obviously we can deal with those during the week, which is great. You can send back a private message, of course, or we can deal with it on the show, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
So let's jump to our question number 2. Thanks, Richie. All right. 2 is now, okay, I believe it's Stephanie from New Zealand, lovely part of the world. Now, do you recommend I defend myself with a friend who puts me down around others? She is very competitive and is consistent. What would you suggest?
Ooh, so this is not an intellectual or scientific conversation here, but it's definitely a life lesson, but it's still very much about psychology.
Okay.
And what I was saying before about the inferiority complex and the superiority complex. And Stephanie, I'm just wondering, if you were looking at this other person and you were looking in terms of superior, inferior, whether you would feel like the culprit of being the inferior one. And if this other person has got a bit of a, I shouldn't say God complex, but I don't know him or her, but that superiority. Usually these people with the superiority complexes, they're the ones that are actually inferior.
100%. I agree. They're the ones who are insecure or inferior or whatever. And it's just a false personality they put out to the world, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of it.
They gaslight people or they put people into a position to elevate themselves. And you know, how big is that whole thing of the Joneses?
Okay.
You know, where everybody wants to keep up with the Joneses. And, you know, that element, but also you hear about the school bullies. So the person you're talking about was probably the school bully or the class bully. Most more than likely, they are probably a pretty, assertive person, and they're probably very, very successful in their own way.
Mhm.
But there's usually the insecurities that they're dealing with, and why they bully or why they use that person. But my question to you, Stephanie, is what is it about you that is a threat to her?
Mhm. Identify that. That's a really good point. Look, back in my past, I had some bullying. I dealt with it really, really quick. But
How did you deal with it?
I punched him in the head. That's how I did it. Fixed it. That solved that drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a couple of other things too. No,
Yeah.
in primary school, I had some dramas from a car accident. So it made me a target for a while, and because of that, the bullies, they think I'll take this opportunity. Like in that case, in primary school, you could do it just a nice right hook, and that sorted that right out. Because then what they're trying to do, and okay, don't promote violence. Violence is not the answer, generally speaking, right? So, I will throw that out there.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's necessary.
Yes.
Okay. And if somebody's actually threatening you physically, or in this case, it was physical, I was being actually attacked and punched and all that sort of thing. So my way of dealing was to hit harder and faster and stronger and end it.
Yeah.
My kind of comment on that is, look, if you want to start a fight, I'll end it. Okay. So that worked at that level. A little bit older.
But there's a lot to be said about that, because I can identify with that myself, being assertive and not being a pushover, because, if people perceive us or you or the person being a lame duck, they think they can get away with it.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be that line that you draw in the sand.
100%. Now, as I got older, I actually had some similar kind of issues, and I dealt with verbally, right? And I took control of the situation verbally, and it was very clear to me that that particular bully, why that person was a bully. I found out why, and they were exactly that. They were trying to create a power for themselves, because in other parts of their life they didn't have any power. Yeah. So that's a male side.
Yeah, now, it happens in the female world too.
A very, very close friend of mine, someone I care a lot about, was horrendously bullied as a child, right, by another girl at school, and did a lot of damage and long-term damage, as far as I'm concerned. And these people it must be much harder for girls, because they haven't got the ability to drop them like a hot spud, right?
Don't be completely shocked about that.
This is true. But to me, I actually think girls have got a disadvantage in this world, because on that front, because they've got less tools, in their arsenal to deal with bullying. So it's a very important thing. I would tend to think, and I identify, but also have great, I don't know what's the word, sympathy.
Yes,
for
definitely empathy.
Yeah, that's more.
And Stephanie, you don't want to have ruinous empathy. I heard that word last night, but ruinous is when you're actually empathetic of another person, but you are literally putting yourself on the firing line about it. So you're not standing up for yourself. You're letting yourself be trodden over. Now, I can remember a young man, teenage boy, who came in and saw me, and he was being bullied. And NLP, a lot of it is about pattern interruption, reframes. So being able to reframe the situation. So, of course, when I did this conversation, just as I am with you, Stephanie, and started, pointing out that his bully was probably really deeply insecure. He probably had some dad issues at home where there was someone, a male figure specifically, that's what they say on the psychological side of things, where they felt put down. And, when I got this guy to actually see it from the point of view that this person is actually very, very vulnerable. They're going through a human crisis themselves in what they're doing. That changed everything. Now, energy is like a dog that smells fear. You know how a dog can smell fear, and they'll go to the person who seems to be the scared one. People can sense your fear, and energetically, if you're very acutely aware of this person's put downs, they're going to know it. They're going to know it. And guess what? That's going to feed the dragon. And what we say in NLP is you got to starve that dragon.
Wow.
Yeah, starve that dragon.
I like that.
And the only way you can do it, because it's not really about defending yourself, but it's about coming to terms within yourself about, neutralizing it and understanding where they are. I mean, if it was a really serious thing and this person's meant to be a really close friend of yours, I mean, there's always that element where you can sit down with them and say, on their own, not at the time, but, I notice that this is what happens and I feel like you are putting me down when we're in a situation. And that makes me feel this way, because when you can really emotionally and intelligently, so talking about female tools, this is probably a really good one for the girls. So really be able to express, I've noticed that this happens. This is how I feel. Don't put blame on them. You could even say, maybe I'm wrong, but this is how I'm feeling. Is there anything that I'm doing that's offending you? And you're kind of almost taking back your own power. But, yeah, just a couple of things. But I believe the most important thing is to understand you're not the inferior one.
Yeah.
In fact, the one on the other side more than likely is.
I'm even going to take away the most likely. The other person is definitely the person who is in the lower part of this equation. From my point of view, as far as, look, I'm a very competitive person. I love to, well, actually, I was meant to say I love to win, and I do. But
that's healthy.
Yeah, but I love to compete. I love competition. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
But okay, I also think that you should mainly be competing with yourself. Okay?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the Joneses stuff, I've got zero interest in the Joneses stuff. If it's other things in life that I want to constantly improve my life and the people around me and the people that I serve, if you like. Okay, that to me becomes a competitive thing. And if this woman is doing this, quite frankly, she's just showing her inadequacy, and she's actually showing an element of jealousy. If she's putting you down in front of others, that is a quintessential picture.
Green-eyed monster.
Boom.
Happening right there.
Yep.
But you can take mercy on her. But I love what you just said, Aaron. That is so true. The only person you ought to be competing with is yourself.
Yep.
And that it's fine to be competitive. Competitive is really healthy. I mean, if you're an athlete, you're going for gold, you be competitive.
Yeah.
You go for broke. But, when a person feels like they have to compete with everything, it's like a life competitor, that's when it becomes an inferiority,
I had
a whole
friend
insecurity.
Like this years ago, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had a white sports car. So guess what? She went and bought a white sports car. Yeah. Okay. I said that this other particular car that I was going to buy, because I'm a car guy, so I'm always going to be about cars. But okay, I wanted to go buy this particular four-wheel drive, and I was looking at it. Making the ideas towards making a deal, and her and her husband went out there and bought the damn exact same car, right? And it's like, come off, really? And years later, I was talking to the husband about this. And he goes, yeah. The moment you said that, she wanted that car. It was like she had to have it. And you know what? Here's the stupid thing. They got themselves into this big, and I didn't even bother. I was like, I'm not, just not in that, okay? And I ended up buying something else. But the thing is, talking to the husband years later, he said they got themselves into this horrendous finance deal that they couldn't afford because just to get it.
To keep up with the Jones?
Yeah. And like, oh my word, that is showing every inadequacy in you.
Yeah.
So as far as that, I just couldn't care less. This person in your life is clearly showing that they are your inferior, and I don't want to be putting people, you're superior, inferior. I don't want to do that style, but she's showing where she is in the pecking order. So I quite frankly, I would just smile and see the value in it that she's making a fool of herself.
Have that quiet confidence.
Yeah, love that. All right, let's jump to next question. So it is all right here. So this is from Joe. Joe doesn't say where he's from. Come on, Joe.
Come
Jeez,
on, Joe,
send
what's
us a message,
happening?
mate. I need to know where you are. Come on, it's a big world
Could
out
be
there.
anywhere. You could be in the Sahara Desert for all we know.
Reminds me of a very good song. Hey, Joe. Now, Joe from the Sahara Desert. Now, Joe,
See?
I have a fear at 44 years of age that I will never find my purpose. I notice you guys talk about purpose a lot. Any tips on how I can discover mine?
Ooh, that's a beauty.
It's
Yeah.
an absolute beauty.
It
Go
is
on.
an absolute beauty. Yes. I mean, we could be on this subject all day.
Get comfy, everyone.
But
No.
yeah, so everybody just go grab yourself a cup of tea and sit right down. So no, truly, in short, what I would be saying to you to do, and again, it's a little bit of a ritual and, you know, an exercise for yourself. Sit down and think about everything that really excited you as a child. Things that really got your adrenaline going, things that really just brought a heap of joy to your life, right? Write them down. And as you begin to define your points of joy, then on the other side of the fence, write down some of the biggest hurdles. And specifically, we always look at the SEEs. So SEE, by the way, is significant emotional event. So if you look at a significant emotional event, it doesn't matter about the context of that story, but it's how it made you feel. So quite often when people get led to, you know, they may have had something really shabby that happened to them, but as a result, they had this inbuilt value system that rose up in them as a result of that. So if they were deprived from feeling important, or if there was prejudice, let's just say racism, you know, like Martin, what are we talking about? Luther King. Okay, so
one of the greatest
Martin
men
Luther
in
King,
history,
yes,
right?
you know,
flawed.
Yes.
Very flawed, but
yes.
hey, look at that life purpose,
Absolutely.
right?
And I have a dream. And these dreams don't come from nowhere. Okay.
No, they don't.
So when you're looking at, you know, what you stand for, I believe that it comes from where you've experienced, like, you know, what you've experienced in the world. You know, you're surrounded with people around you that are very passionate people. They'll go out doing rallies. They'll go out and they will be ambassadors. They'll make a stand for what they believe in.
That's
but
so
you
important.
can, and there is something that that has afflicted their soul. And that affliction that has really come into play, and it may not be directly on that, but it may stand around what that person still stands for. So remember the two things. What brought you your point of joy growing up? And what were 3 emotional events that really, you know, made you feel, I mean, they really impacted you. They had a huge impact on you. And then if you could look at that and say, what can I stand for? If that was happening to somebody else, what would be my stance in this? What can you do to go out in the world? And then with what you've got on the other side, your point of joy, if you can bring your point of joy into and collaborate with the pain of your yesterday and your experience, you can turn your pain to power. Now, once you've done that little exercise, so you've got your pain and you've got your joy, you can then ask yourself the question, what do you want? Like, what do you really, really want? I mean, even when people are making a stand for something, it's a good idea to ask the person that question, like, what is it that you truly want to happen here?
Agreed. Yep.
What is it? And then write that down and then continue as 7 levels deep. This is not my thing. This is Dean Grazios and Anthony Robbins. And they will go down 7 levels to asking, why is that so important? And why is that so important? And why is that so important? Until, bang, you're going to hit one of those blood vessels that were linked into your SEEs, your emotional events.
Now, can I ask you to repeat what you just said as far as the asking through those levels? Because that's something I've never considered doing.
Okay. And
I think that's a winner.
It's so good. I mean, you want to see it in action on the hot seat.
Right.
It's powerful.
Okay.
It's really, really powerful. People never get sick of watching something like that and experiencing it, because everybody's, processing their own world in how they're, when they're hearing the answers. So the first question is, what is it that you really want? So what do you want? And then the next question is, why do you want that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, make sure that it's framed. The only disclaimer here is it has to be framed positively.
Okay.
You can't say, I don't want starving children in the world anymore.
Right.
Okay.
Or great thought, but highly impractical.
You want
how you can change that.
Yeah. So how would you reframe that actual statement? It's like you say, very well meaning. I want to see the hungry children fed, and I want to see this, justice happening in the world, or whatever that is. So make sure that it's really stated in that truly positive way, and then ask, why do you want that? And then ask yourself the question, write it down. And then with that, what you've written down, it could be because it's not fair. I don't think it's fair that people are starving in the world, for example, and I want to see them having their rights. Why is that so important? And then just keep on asking.
So how many levels? 7?
It's 7, but that's only statistic.
Okay.
So the way you know when you've hit the bottom, and 7 is, we're just going to play around with that number because that's what it says in their book as well.
Right.
Traditionally, that's when people usually find what it is that, and you'll find that people even can cry. Like, they may have stated everything really positively right down, and then bam, they'll hit a blood vessel.
Right.
And they'll go, because this happened to me when I was a child and I don't want to see that happen to anybody else.
You found the point.
You found it.
Yeah.
Bam.
That is fantastic. I want to say this to Joe. Joe, 44 years of age, so you're 40 plus GST, okay? So I want to tell you something from my heart straight to you. I thought that I knew a lot about life at 44. I thought I knew what my purpose was. I thought I knew what I was here to do. I thought I'd even done a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd done some really cool stuff. 44 is the age where I actually discovered my life purpose. And bang on that, 44 years. So that's really interesting. And I'm going to contradict you a little bit in a strange way because, you're about, choosing and making that decision, which is important. Like, make that decision.
Yes.
But sometimes the world will actually make that decision for you.
Oh, right? Yes.
So at 44, some horrible situations came my way. And I was completely lost. I made awful decisions based on being lost, lack of control of my life, all of that sort of stuff. And by having somebody else impose that control over me made me actually discover my life purpose, bang on 44. And as I say, I thought I had it together before. I mean, I had some nice toys back in the day. I had a great career. I was, there's a lot of very positive ththings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful children who were and still are my life, now, and I very much at that stage really thought that my children were my entire life. And they are still massively important to me, and they still are they're my kids, right? There is a difference though. So at 44, I discovered that I had a higher purpose. I don't want to contradict myself. I mean, what's higher than your kids? Nothing, okay? But a purpose to serve others.
The soul purpose. The
Yeah,
soul purpose.
yeah, absolutely.
You can have both. You can have your kids
have both.
and your soul purpose.
Yeah, well, you would like to think so. So at that age, for me, it was very, very, very pivotal. So, Joe, it might be happening this week. It might be happening next year. Who knows?
What a story.
But
yeah, that's great.
When we go through life, whatever age you hit, guess what? You got some more time, get it done. But action is the most important thing. Okay. Don't be thinking, don't procrastinate.
Yeah,
Action,
that's right.
Jackson.
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter if you're 64.
Yep.
It's never too late to have a happy childhood, and absolutely love what you just said. And, sometimes when people are saying, oh, why did this have to happen to me? And, we've got a cruel God or whatever, people do the blame game.
Say that, yeah.
It's like, because you're not listening. Are you listening? Sometimes you will be forced into a scenario where you have to make a left or right turn in your life because you weren't listening.
Yeah, so true.
And then it became a radical thing, not necessarily a great thing, but a radical thing. And that's why we always say there's always a higher purpose for everything.
100% agree. Now, Joe, just so you know, the first 44 years of childhood, I found the toughest. Okay, so, after that, it's a breeze. No, I'm only kidding. Okay.
And you're only 45.
Of course I am. Of course I am. Yes, I've had that birthday a few times now.
GST plus tax and everything else.
Right. That's right. Oh, dear. All right, we better end the show. We've got a little over time, but that's what we do around here. And really, this is the great thing about what we do is this is an open format and it's a conversation. And we obviously have people's questions that we want to talk about and discuss them, but there's no scripts here. This is natural. This is life. This is how conversations are supposed to work.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
If it goes a little long, it goes a little long. But we better get out of here. All right. Thank you very much for being part of the Genius Zone. Thank you, Terry. Thank you for everybody who's been involved. Look forward to seeing those questions through the week on the other little platforms. But for now, goodbye from the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia.